Alrighty. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Dowd. I am the product manager here at Holistiplan for our insurance tool, and I'm super excited to introduce you to Dave, who is the founder of Prizm Insurance, which is our new integration that we're rolling out. And today we're just going to talk through some of the highlights, why I started to work with Dave and kind of chose him as our partner in this really final step in our process to make sure that these awesome insights we're providing, you guys can have a broker that you trust that's in all 50 states that can really make sure that your clients aren't just handed a to-do list with no real direction, but having someone in the seat. Dave's been in the business for 20 years, and so super excited to introduce you. And Dave, I didn't want to butcher your last name, so if you wouldn't mind just saying your last name and introducing yourself, that would be great.
No worries, Megan. Thanks for that. Last name is Olchelka. I've been dealing with it my whole life, so don't worry, you're not the first. And I think you did a really fabulous job at introducing me. Prism is excited to be partnering with Holistiplan and really excited to talk about how that integration and that partnership is going to work today.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about your background, Dave. How did Prism come about? Or is this your first gig? A little bit about, yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Definitely not my first rodeo. I've been in insurance for over 20 years. Started my career with State Farm and ran a State Farm agency successfully for over 10 years. And as my family's needs started to change and the people around me's needs started to change, I gravitated towards what we call the high net worth insurance space, which is a term that I don't love. And, maybe we can talk about that. We sort of think about that space as the affluent high net worth, or anybody that's working with a financial advisor or a wealth advisor that's looking to build their financial future and protect those assets. That's really sort of how I like to think about that. And I gravitated to that space, purely for my own interests, but really fell in love with it. I held positions both at NFP and at Marsh, but within those organizations, I started to see that there was a lot of friction in many areas of the process from start to finish. And the tools that existed within those brokerages just didn't seem like they were providing any real efficiency. So I really tried to drive that conversation around technology and building efficiencies within both of those organizations. And unfortunately, was met with a lot of resistance, and not because people don't want to change, but just because, different game plans. And, that really just led me to say, I think there's something I can do here. I think there's a problem that I can solve. And I left and built Prism, and we can talk a little bit more about those problems we're solving as we get into this conversation.
Yeah, and I can totally agree. I was at some of the big houses before too, and it's all great to have those names behind you, but sometimes when it comes down to the actual client experience, the conversations you're able to have, and the true goals that us as great people want to accomplish, which is educating clients, making sure they understand their risk, isn't always the goal at those places. While it's part of the process, really being able to support a financial advisor and the risk management they're doing from a financial standpoint, and now translating that into P&C insurance, I think, is few and far between when it comes to brokers. So I'm super excited to learn a little bit more and have you share a little bit more about your technology and just really how that fits in to this process. Because obviously we love our humans, but there is a decent amount of inefficiencies in the insurance brokerage space today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. And I think we're in a place where there has to be a very happy marriage of that technology and real people to deliver the type of service that advisors of today need.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of how Holistiplan operates. We love our OCR systems, but at the end of the day, we're known for our team and our support and being able to roll our sleeves up and answer those difficult questions. And, I think that's, again, where Prism comes in for our insurance product is we don't have anyone at Holistiplan besides myself that's really P&C licensed that can roll up their sleeves. And so how do you really see Prism supporting Holistiplan and going through that review process with the advisor and their client?
Yeah, such a great question. And I'll start by talking a little bit about your tool and what you guys have built, which I think is just fabulous, right? The ease in which an advisor can, upload or connect declarations pages into your system and within, I think it's 24 hours, right? Get these deep insights back of where deficiencies lie within an insurance program of their clients. I think that that's incredibly powerful. And then, as you mentioned, it's like, what's next, right? How do we solve for those deficiencies? And it's not always the best option to just send our clients back to their broker who didn't provide them the right advice and consultation to start with, and after we've exposed these deficiencies. And not everybody has a great relationship with their State Farm agent or their Allstate agent. And we see 99% of clients, I'm sort of making that number up, but we see the bulk of clients in this affluent and high net worth space still with these mass market carriers like the State Farms and the Allstates, and not really understanding that those deficiencies exist. So your tool does such a fabulous job of pointing those deficiencies out. And then the integration with Prism, where your advisors can now just click a button to start a review with us, takes it to that next level, right? It's like, here's the deficiencies. And now here's a team of people that not only allow us to easily ask for help, right, through the integration, but who can deliver us something extremely comprehensive on how to solve for those deficiencies, whether it's a recommendation to move to a new carrier that provides a more robust offering, or it's a series of, bullet points that says, this is what you do and this is how you solve for it. And we can help you make those, have that conversation with your current broker, or deliver the information in a way that's easy to communicate to the broker, where it's like, here, just do this.
Yes, which is actually how I found you. Was you had a LinkedIn post where you shared a similar story. I think it might have been a client in California that you were introduced to. And again, while you had a market, it wasn't really the right fit for that client. They were in the right spot, which kind of leads into another piece of like outgrowing your carrier. So not only do I think what you guys offer, and again, why we kind of found you, is that ability to risk manage, but also understand when clients outgrow and when it is time to make that move and put in the legwork. Because as you're aware, and I'm very aware of, moving insurance, the easy part is buying it. A lot of times the legwork comes at the end and after you actually purchase the insurance. And so when it comes with Holistiplan, we do the home, we have landlord, we do umbrella, auto coverage, condo renters. Is that kind of what Prism does in terms of business and supports, or what's your sweet spot at Prism?
Yeah, absolutely. Prism's focus, is heavy on personal lines, right? Home, auto, valuable articles, umbrella, watercraft, anything to do with your personal life. But we also have the ability to accommodate smaller business opportunities as well, right? So when you think about the few person attorney shop or accountants, or the smaller business family owned things where complex sort of commercial requirements don't exist, and we can actually do that as an accommodation along with the personal program, which really allows us to have a very robust offering for the types of clients that we're seeing, right? And many of our clients are either going to be small business owners or executives, right? Yeah. At larger organizations. So it really gives us the opportunity to have an offering that fits everybody.
Yeah. And can you name a few of the companies that you work with today?
Yeah, I mean, we work with over 35 different insurance carriers, from the admitted lines, which is an insider sort of name of, your standard carrier names, and excess and surplus lines, which is like high risk carriers, right? But I think names that people know are like Chubb or Pure or Cincinnati or AIG. Like, those are names that maybe people have heard of. They've heard of Travelers, they've heard of Safeco, right? And then there's some other names that aren't as well known, but very high-end carriers owned by some of the largest global insurers in the world that offer some of the most robust policies in the market. So we really have a pretty deep reach when it comes to solutions anywhere in the country.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys can do business nationwide?
We can do business in all 50 states. Yes.
We love that. That again, just really allows this integration to be seamless. When I was in those larger brokerages, not only, we did have 50 states, but we also had a premium threshold. So I loved working with advisors, but unless your clients were spending $25,000 on insurance, I sometimes wasn't able to really support that relationship in the way I wanted. And so can you just tell us a little bit kind of about how you guys different in that aspect and really supporting the Holistiplan mission and every client every year having that insurance review, but also having that trusted resource without boundaries?
I'm actually so glad you brought that up, honestly, because I have this line that I use all the time when I'm talking to our advisor partners, whether they're current advisor partners or new ones, where I say, our appetite is your appetite, right? We are here to fit as a cog in that holistic approach to risk management that advisors are looking to gravitate towards, right? I really believe that the future of sort of financial advice and wealth advice is a holistic approach where the advisors really have to be at the center of it all and have access to, not only the wealth advising and the financial planning, but the tax and the trust and estate, right? And as well as the insurance. And if you come in as a broker and you say, this is our appetite, this is what we want from you, that requires you to be selective in who you choose to utilize these services, which does not allow it to be something that fits into that approach to risk management organically or every time. So at Prism, our appetite is the advisor's appetite, because we know that advisors are going to have new clients that are just starting to earn, maybe in building the nest egg to purchase the $1 million or $2 million home. And then they also have clients that are worth $50 million, $100 million, right? Even all the way up to family office risks, and we can advise on all of those risks, and we have markets available for all of those risks. So maybe a client hasn't gotten themselves to a place where they are the right fit for the higher tiered carriers because of their basic minimums, right? As to what they'll allow into their books of business. We have carriers that can also solve for those needs as well. And we can still provide that same advice and consultation at any level. And then what gives us the opportunity to grow with that client year over year, like you said, right? We have a very thorough annual renewal process. And as their nest egg grows and as their risk profile, changes and their net worth and their income changes and they start to purchase new things, we have the ability, we have the carriers, we have the knowledge to help them grow the right way and ensure that year over year, we're actually ensuring the risk profile as it is versus as it was when nobody touches it for 3 or 4 years.
100%. And for those CFPs listening to that, that's really your fiduciary duty, is to find a partner like this that's really watching those risks. While shopping the market is important, it's really about maintaining the risk, maintaining the coverage, because at the end of the day, it is a call between David and yourselves. When your clients have a claim, it's either they're unfortunately getting assets under management because they didn't have water sewer backup on their home, or they had an exclusion for some dog liability or whatever the case is, versus them being able to call David. Well, they'll still call you the advisor first, but then you guys will call David together and you'll have that ability to say, don't worry about it. Not only are you with the right company that's going to write checks and put you back, they have teams of professionals that step in, that whether it's putting you in contact with a great roofer or someone maybe that's a little more craftsmanship when it comes to claims. So, if you can talk a little bit and elaborate on that, Dave, it's not just about the everyday pain points that you solve, but how else and what other pain points do you feel that Prism can help when it comes to the advisor needs of their clients?
Yeah, you're right. It starts with that, that first initial review and the ease of, access that we provide and the speed in which we deliver those findings back.
How quickly is that? Just real quick. I know that, again, in this industry standard is 7 to 21 days, maybe even longer. If we're talking, again, those $50, $100 million accounts, you're talking 30, 45 days if you're lucky. But just real quick, not to derail this, but how quickly are you guys engaging with clients in this process? Yeah,
so our standard turnaround time, for accounts that don't have what we would call maybe a lot of hair on them, right? It's going to be 3 to 5 business days. And in the amount of questions that we need to ask, which, I'm really excited for your advisors to really test this system out, right, is so small compared to what a traditional broker would need to ask for us to get the same findings and the same outcomes. And I would actually argue better outcomes.
I would.
more complex accounts, which I don't love that complex. We don't really look at clients as complex, but I think it's a word that people understand quite well in this industry. Maybe 7-10 days on the outset, right? If we're thinking about like a hard California risk or a hard Florida risk, we really thrive on getting answers quickly. It's critical for us to do it quickly. It's critical for the advisors to have it back to their clients quickly. It's critical for the client, truthfully, to have it back quickly, because insurance is, let's be honest, not the most fun thing to do and talk about and have conversations. And it's like, if I disappear for 30 days and I come back to you and you go, wait, what were we talking about again? Call me next year.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the other piece is a lot of the clients that advisors work with are busy. They work 9 to 5. And so getting you on the phone between 9 to 5 to then answer what feels like interview interrogation questions. And then again, maybe emails back and forth to the advisor. Your system is something they can do on their cell phone in bed at 11 o'clock at night. It's simple as like an address, maybe just correcting or checking some information to confirm it's accurate, but it really is something that the advisor really looks great in because it's just a simple email. They, again, do it on their time where they're comfortable. And then as you discussed, they get that result back in 3 to 5 days, which is within a time frame that most of us are still thinking about whatever said topics we had, found in that Holistiplan review.
100%. And even the proposals that we deliver back are link form, right? So it's something they can review on their cell phone at 11 o'clock at night before they're falling asleep, right? And if there's anything that could help your eyes get tired, it's insurance proposals, right? Or insurance documents. So I think we can do some really great stuff for clients at that time of night,
Yeah.
Help them get to sleep mostly. But, it doesn't stop there for us. Once a client is onboarded with Prism, I argue that that's where the real work starts, right? Like we've given the education to help clients really understand where the deficiencies lie and that what programs exist out there that we've offered are why they're better. But like now we have to prove that we're there for them, right? We don't just walk away. They don't call a 1-800 number. We are a white glove concierge level service that is available to the client and their advisor all the time, right? We have carrier agnostic portals. So sometimes clients have to have multiple carriers to solve for their overall risk profile because of carrier appetites in different states or how the risk is situated, whether it's a short-term rental or a long-term rental, right? Yeah. And our portal allows for all of their documents to live in one location. So they're not downloading multiple apps or having disjointed renewal dates, right? So we really make it easy for clients, to self-serve, regardless of how many carriers they have, to get in touch with us through the portal in various ways, right? With requests for changes, can book appointments, can send messages through our secure messaging portal. They can email us, they can call us, they can text us. So we really have this multi-channel access and we're always going to be there. And the way our platform is built and the way the technology is built internally, right? It's a collaborative way of managing a team for clients. They have a team. They have everybody at Prism at their disposal. And the goal for Prism is to get back to them as fast as possible and solve their issue as fast as possible or be there in their time of need, right? So I think that's something that we really do differently that's not disjointed. We work very similar to financial advisor teams, right? Where they work in a team environment and we're very collaborative. That's the same thing that's happening at Prism.
Yeah, I love it. And we've kind of danced around it, but I just want to give the listeners a clear understanding of like how Prism really influences the conversations about risk that they're having and maybe just the overall journey. I can obviously hit on once your report is done in Holistiplan is when the journey with Prism starts. So it is important that you do at least start with the Holistiplan review because that's going to give that needs analysis that really allows the clients to understand outside of price, what's important to them, what's to David's point, what's their pain points? Why do they need to have a conversation? Have they truly outgrown their insurance? Or is it just having a conversation with a professional so they can sleep a little better at night? But just again, really want to make sure people understand how we've described the simple the flow is, but really just start to finish what that looks like with your team.
Yeah. So, the starting with Holistiplan's review really is, the engine. It's the spark to the fire, right? It really is an important piece that you should start with. I agree. And it helps them understand those deficiencies. But then when they get to us, right, we take that deeper dive into those deficiencies. So Holistiplan system is going to outline whether dwelling seems low, deductibles seem like they should be changed, right? There's risks for youthful drivers, or umbrella limits are low based on net worth and income. And then Prism is going to take that data, right? And we're going to either provide advice and consultation around how to solve for that, or recommendations with a different carrier on how to solve for that. And we're going to deepen that advice that Prism or Holistiplan system has already given, right? And we're going to do that through a deeper understanding of what each one of those coverage lines means to them, and why it's important to actually solve for them when that red light goes off inside your system, right? And then we're there then to then say, like, this is how you do it. And we can help you do it. And not only can we help you do it, we're going to be there with you once you do it, as somebody who's going to ensure that what we say today as, where your deficiencies lie and what you should have may not be what it is tomorrow and year over year over year, but we're going to be here with you to do that. And we're going to then serve that information back into your advisor's hands, through the relationships that we build with them, so that everybody stays on the same page with the risk, which is yours as the household, right?
Yeah, and I think you described that perfectly, and that the key is keeping the financial advisor the quarterback. We don't want them to be the insurance experts. They already have a lot of expertise. Their expertise is also in that relationship and trust building. That's, I think, the other big piece that Holistiplan solves, is this bridge between all this amazing information that advisors hold in their head that really can change the projection of their insurance portfolio or program. So whether that's, again, they sit on those non-for-profit boards, so there's only a handful of groups that will actually write that on the umbrella policy. So they no longer have a huge market to go to. It's very tight. But just to hammer home on that relationship piece, because obviously working in these big houses, sometimes there's some cross-selling that unintentionally happens to books, just as life insurance comes up and different things. So can you just talk a little bit about that part of your process, and again, how the relationship really does stay with that advisor?
Yeah, we don't cross-sell. Right. We don't do life insurance. We don't own any financial advisory firms or have any interest in wealth advisory or financial advisory firms. Right. And many of these big shops own their own wealth advisory firms and financial planning firms and big life insurance arms and big executive benefit arms. Right. Where that cross-selling does occur. And it can be a little bit worrisome for the advisor, letting their clients sort of being put into this sort of like huge ecosystem where, there's no rules, right? And as much as they say there's really not any rules, right? So it's important for us to stick to what we know best and do the things that we know best, and stay in our lane, and ensure that we can build that trust with the advisors and their companies, so that they can utilize us and feel safe utilizing us year over year over year with their whole entire book of business as the need occurs, right? We don't want that concern that there's going to be some cross-selling, or their clients are going to be stolen, or with through an internal RIA that somebody owns. That doesn't exist at Prism. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's a very critical part to building that trust, right? Where they know where we stand always.
And that's the road always leads back to them. That if your client, if they come to you and they're like, Dave, I need just a quick term policy, you're my insurance guy. It's like, no, XYZ advisors, your person, go to them. They have somebody for you. And like, you're really that risk management arm to these firms. While you have a name, which is Prism, your clients won't feel their clients won't feel the difference. It's very much just an extension of who and how they operate today. And you're just fortunate to kind of be part of that.
100%. We are truly a partner. That's the way we look at ourselves, is truly as a partner who is in it with you and has the client's best interest in mind always, and that you are the center of that client
Yeah. And then one last question just on this topic that I want to make sure we hammer home is, once they hit the submit button in our Holistiplan system to go to Prism, it's not like you have 20 very hungry salespeople waiting to call. Like you have risk managers in the seat. They'll be contacted by one person. It's again, not going to be this endless ringing for, 3 or 4 days of getting the client to pick up or again, bombarded with emails.
Yes. Another point that I'm so glad you brought up, because we've all dealt with that, right?
Yeah.
Like I've gone out to different systems and, companies that call themselves online or digital brokers or whatever else. And I submit my information and my phone rings 50 times in 3 hours. I get 40 emails. They bombard me for 3 days. And then I'm on this like constant drip campaign for the rest of my life, right? And that is not at all how Prism works, right? It's a very soft touch. And we are, the initial, part of this process is brought on by the agent and or the advisor, I should say, and the conversation that they're having with their client to say, hey, like, we need to take the next step. We've done this thing in the Holistiplan insurance review, and now we need to take the next step to deepen on our understanding of these deficiencies and how to solve for them. And that starts with that one click, right? And that submission over to Prism, which ultimately sends one email to the client and says, hey, your advisor, we'll use Bob Smith, right? As your advisor has requested an insurance review on your behalf. They're aware that this email is coming, right? And it's from a real person. It's either me or somebody else on my team. It's not a marketing email, right? It's from a real person, from a real individual's email address that goes out to them. And if they don't act on that email, there's some soft touches. 4 days later, there's a reminder, 6 days later, 10 days later, and then it's over, right? There isn't a lifelong drip campaign. There's this couple of touches to say, as a reminder, your advisor really wants you to do this. And then we stop. If they didn't act on it, there's obviously something that happened more important in their life. And we can come back to this at a later date. And we let the advisor know, hey, Sally didn't do the risk profile questionnaire. We weren't able to do a review. Let us know when you want to pick this back up. 100%. And then that's the end.
Yeah. And if Sally does find that link 6 months later and clicks on it, your team will be ready to go, and happy to, support at that time. So I think there is this, fine line of, as you were describing, life happens. So sometimes those links, need to go on, but we also will show statuses in Holistiplan. So again, if that client never answers the email, you will see like a closed loss in our system to, again, either trigger maybe advisor reaching out to help that conversation a little bit more, or again, just adding it to the next conversation at the year renewal. So again, I think that's just such an important piece to this is at the end of the day, these are your clients. And, I think that's really the last big piece that I feel really brought Prism and Holistiplan together is at the end of the day, we each have a business that we run, but our business is nothing without the end client. And the end client is that advisor's end client. And the advisors are our client as well, but we care so much about, like for Holistiplan, the information being put in front, that it's accurate and correct. And same for you guys. You care that it's like talking to one of your family members and you're giving them that same advice that you would give a niece, a nephew, a grandparent, or whoever on like, I just want you to know this about the market. This is what you need to understand. Here's your options, but really taking it more from what does that client need? And business obviously gets done after that. But if you could just, finish that kind of thought and really how you guys support the client experience.
Yeah, the client's needs are always first, right? The sale is an afterthought, right? And we don't call it sales. It's not even a sale to us. It is advice and consultation with recommendations on how to solve. It will always be the client's choice on whether or not they move forward with a potential program that we have offered as a solve, or take the advice and consultation that we've provided and go back to their current broker and implement some of these changes, right? It is the client's needs first every single time with us. And I think that that's something that is so important to stress in this relationship, in what we do and how Prism and even Holistiplan, right, is a differentiator from the rest of the market, right? Like, unfortunately, at the big shops, it is about sales. It is about, revenue. It is about driving client premium, because that's the company puts those, those requirements on these advisors and these, and other people within the organization, which just requires them to approach everything very differently than we do. And we don't have those requirements. It's not about that with Prism. It's about, we find that when we provide the right advice and consultation and we build trust, not only with the advisors, but their clients, that most people take us up on our recommendations because they like what we have to say. And the service then follows, right? And they stay with us year over year because we hold our promise up.
Yeah. And again, I think that goes into, what Holistiplan believes with this lifestyle. Life's always happening. Things are always changing. Hey, we're going to buy a piece of land. Hey, let's call David. Let's just make sure, does land need to be insured? Maybe we're going to buy it with two brothers. And now we have two people on the deed who insures it. There's all these things that it's no longer just the needs analysis out of Holistiplan. It's a person that as the advisor, you can pick up and call and then have a little bit of that fuzz. Obviously, your clients will be calling David as well, but you now have someone, if you hear something at a dinner table and you want to impress a prospect. Oh, hey, David, I heard a prospect talking about this. Can you just give me a few talking points from an insurance perspective? So I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I do truly believe insurance is also a great prospecting tool for advisors because very few advisors talk about it today, but it's the biggest gap and really the largest way clients are going to lose and unravel all the planning that they're doing today. It's going to be the car accident, the fire, something potentially could happen. It's usually, markets go bad and they go down. History shows they eventually come back up, especially if you stay put. But it also shows that insurance disrupts and that it can completely unravel the most well thought out estate plan with financial plan. And until you put that risk management plan bow on top of it, it's just a really great hope and wish that everything lines up. And so before we kind of wrap this up, I would just, obviously we're super excited about the integration with Prism. As I got out of the business, I did have a decent amount of advisors ask, like, Megan, who's your replacement? So if anyone who asked, I'd love to introduce you to my replacement, Dave. I think you guys will really enjoy working with him. We have the same mentality, again, as we discussed, a bunch here, clients first, risk management second. Right placement is obviously the most important piece because we want coverage to respond, but risk tolerance. And that's where you as the advisor really add that great piece is bridging the knowledge, the tolerance, and complementing the work that David and I really enjoy doing. Just like a lot of you on here are nerds about financial advising, David and I are nerds when it comes to insurance. And I think we both can proudly say we love insurance. And so just again, to wrap this up, what are you most excited about with this integration with Holistiplan?
Yeah, I could go on and on about what I'm most excited about, honestly. And you touched on so many good points. And I definitely am an insurance nerd. So thank you for calling me that. I really appreciate it because I am. And I do agree that, there's so much that can happen and unravel. And I say this all the time is that insurance in really umbrella, you can like drill it even down to one product sometimes, but insurance as a whole, when it comes to personal insurance, is really the cheapest form of asset protection that exists today, right? When we look at balance sheets, and if we have an umbrella that's $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 a year, depending on the size and the risk, right? But just an overall program, when we're looking at clients that are making $500,000 or more a year, that have $2, $3, $4, $5+ million of investable assets, $10,000 in insurance to ensure that all of their risks are protected. And in a large loss, whether it be a liability lawsuit that comes against them or one of their children, youthful drivers are big risks when it comes to those things, or deficiencies in coverage on a homeowner's, like you mentioned much earlier in this conversation, water backup of sewer and drain, or just inadequate dwelling limits. We see that so often where a home is insured for $600,000 cost to rebuild when it really should be $1 million. Right? Based on today's labor and material costs. And should that home burn to the ground, right? You're talking $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of real money that has to come from somewhere to solve for those deficiencies, right? And when you put an insurance program in place that solves for that, it really becomes like this kind of bow, as you put it, on this overall financial plan, this holistic approach to risk management, right? It just makes everything that the advisor did for those clients and all that advice work, right? It makes it all come true, honestly,
100%.
right? And insurance is good in great markets and in bad markets, right? Like when cash flow is low because we have all of our money in the market, right? For many of these individuals who are high earners and have lots of investable assets, what better product to have than insurance when cash flow is low, right? When cash flow is really good, hedge your bets with high deductibles, but keep the insurance in place, because I'd rather spend 25 or 50 grand, from having a high deductible than 400 grand, right? From being, having deficient coverage. So I think that, it really, I'm just mirroring basically what you said, but it really is, it's a product that is often overlooked because of how hard it is to engage with today. And this relationship has solved that problem, right? Your tool easily points out those issues, and then Prism easily allows for those issues to be solved and puts real humans behind the advice and consultation like the advisors want for their clients. And now we've made this something that is so easy to engage in, and it allows for advisors to make this a proactive part of their risk management strategies versus something that's reactive when a client asks or when a claim occurs, right? Or when they, have to cherry pick the client to fit that broker's ICP. That doesn't exist with Prism and the Holistiplan relationship. It's for everybody. If you're using the insurance tool, you should be using Prism, and we should all be working together for the common goal of what's in the best interest of the client.
Could not have wrapped this up better. So before we end, any last words, anything that I didn't ask that you really wanted to make sure kind of the users know? Again, this integration will be live and by the time you all see this video. So please reach out if you have questions. We'll include David's contact, but any final words?
I could go on and on. So final words could mean a lot to me, but I think I'll just let this end with, I'm really excited to be a part of this. I'm really excited to pioneer this type of relationship in an otherwise very manual, very sort of inefficient market. And I couldn't be happier to have, started working with you when we started working, and then ultimately coming to what we have here today and what we're about to offer to everybody, because it truly is the first of its kind. What you're doing on the Holistiplan side is the first of its kind. And what we're doing on the Prism side is the first of its kind for the insurance review process, in this particular niche vertical of, affluent and high net worth individuals. And when you put those two together, I don't think there's a more powerful tool that exists in the market today when it comes to insurance reviews.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think you said a little earlier ago, but it's just easy. It's something that it once was hard. It's now going to be very easy, and you don't have to worry about egg on your face. You're not going to lose a money client over this integration. You're going to win happiness, peace of mind. You're going to build additional trust. And so thank you all for taking the time to listen, and we hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Megan.
Bye. Okay, now I got to figure out how to stop recording.